This is Reuters Today, bringing you the very best Reuters content from the heart of London's Canary Wharf. Coming up, a defiant North Korea sends a rocket into orbit. And the godfather of world music, Ravi Shankar, dies aged 92. We start, though, with the Fed. Chairman Ben Bernanke seen here, arriving at a two-day policy meeting, expected to announce a fresh round of bond buying later today. As Operation Twist draws to a close, the Fed looks certain to replace it with a new $45 billion a month in buying and extend purchases of mortgage-backed debt. Loomis Sales Fund Manager Peter Palfrey says the Fed's goal is to push investors into risk assets.
It will be an incentive, a financial incentive for investors to look to other markets such as equities, corporate bonds, both IG and high yield, as well as structured securities. Those are ways to get cheap lending out there in the economy and to try to really give a jump start to the economy.
European finance ministers meeting in Brussels today for another attempt at thrashing out an agreement over banking union. Let's talk about that and the Fed with Michael Leister, senior rate strategist, Commerzbank. Morning to you, Michael. No great surprises expected from the Fed. How's the market going to play this before and after, do you think?
Well, at least heading into the meeting, I guess it's going to remain fairly quiet. A market, as it suggests, has discounted already a good deal of the expected purchases, as everyone is more or less expecting the Fed to keep the underlying economics, monetary stimulus unchanged. So I wouldn't expect too much volatility into the meeting afterwards, though. It depends also probably a bit if they give guidance on the thresholds for unemployment and inflation for the future. So this might create some volatility. Also keep in mind we have an auction just after the meeting, which could also add to some jitters. But overall, it should be fairly quiet, given that the Fed has did their part and the market is I guess getting what he is expecting.
And then tomorrow we can start worrying about the fiscal cliff again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we turned this actually the monetary cliff, so this run out of Operation Twist, but this seems to be very much avoided today. And then, as you mentioned, the focus will be back to Washington and what politicians will come up with.
Banking union, I mentioned that briefly. Germany, France, clearly at loggerheads. What is your expectation? Are you hopeful?
Well, I think the pressure is not high enough yet, so they still have time to reach an agreement, and I guess politicians will continue to bargain on the very details. So at least for today, I wouldn't get my hopes up too high, but in the sort of given the comeback of political risks, the market should be fairly resilient to any noise on that account.
You tell me, but I would imagine if it hadn't been for Italy, most people would have closed their books for the year.
Yeah, it feels a bit like it indeed. So towards end of last week, everyone was sort of very calmed down and looking forward to the Christmas season. Then the old Italian drama came back with a vengeance and sort of ended this complacency the market also had over the past weeks and months. When you look at volatility and also the way yields in Italy and Spain fell across the board. So clearly this served like a wake-up call, and it's going to be interesting at tomorrow's auction in Italy how this one will go.
Okay, thanks a lot, Michael. Corporate news, Delta Airlines buying a 49% stake in Virgin Atlantic. The deal will give both carriers better access to London's Heathrow, Europe's busiest airport. And Zara owner Inditex posting a 27% rise in profit. The world's largest clothing retailer says it sees expansion into China continuing for the next few years. With news of a massive IPO in Japan, let's get to Lisa Yuriko Thomas. Drinks group Suntory deciding it's time to list, Lisa.
Right. Well, it's potentially the biggest IPO since Japan Airlines. Suntory is Japan's #2 soft drink maker, and sources tell Reuters that it plans an up to $6 billion listing of its food and beverage unit in the second half of 2013. The company produces many popular drinks, including the Yamazaki single malt whiskey, and a personal favorite of mine, which is the Orangina, a company it bought in 2009. The Nikkei says Suntory wants to use the money to buy assets abroad, which is really a trend we're seeing with many Japanese drinks firms as they deal with the shrinking and aging home market.
Single malt whiskey is my favorite, but anyway, there you go. Sources saying Panasonic may sell Sanyo's camera business. This is another story you're watching.
Yeah, they may sell their Sanyo digital camera business to a private equity fund early next year. We'll see potentially a decision by the year end. Investors were really happy with the news today. Panasonic shares were up as much as 4% today. Sanyo makes digital cameras for companies like Olympus and was acquired by Panasonic in 2009. But as you probably know, the digital camera business has suffered a lot from competition with smartphones. Panasonic was downgraded into junk status by Fitch and has been on a mission to turn around its business. Axel?
Okay, Lisa, thanks very much indeed. Top world news story on Reuters this morning.
12월 10일 평안북도 철산군 서해 위성 발사.
North Korea's state media celebrates the launch of a long-range rocket that it says has put a satellite into orbit. China, South Korea, Japan and Russia have condemned the launch, while the US described the act as highly provocative. At the same time, a rocket lifted off from Cape Canaveral in Florida for the third flight in a classified military test program. The American space rocket Atlas V carries a small robotic space shuttle. That is it for Reuters Today for this morning. I'll leave you with the sound of Ravi Shankar, the legendary Indian sitarist and composer, has died aged 92. Shankar introduced the Western world to sitar music through his collaborations with the Beatles, violinist Yehudi Menuhin, and jazz saxophonist John Coltrane. George Harrison, who Shankar taught to play sitar, described him as the godfather of world music. I'm Axel Threlfall. This is Reuters.